Into Math 3rd Grade, Lesson 8.4, Solve Two-Step Problems. I can write equations using the 4 operations with an unknown to solve two-step problems. Please gather your workbook and a pencil and turn to page 225. We will start under Step It Out, Part 1. Mr. Cole paints airplanes. He has 6 gallons of paint in a sprayer. He also has 7 equal-sized buckets of paint. The total amount of paint he has is 41 gallons. How much paint is in each bucket? Look at the information in the problem and plan steps to solve. Part A asks us to circle the numbers you know. Because this is a skill we use all the time, we have already circled the numbers that we need. We know that there are 6 gallons of paint in a sprayer, and there are 7 equal-sized buckets of paint, and the total amount of the paint is 41 gallons. And we are looking for how much paint is in each bucket. So the important numbers to us are the 6, the 7, and the 41. Let's look at Part B. Complete the bar model to show how many gallons of paint Mr. Cole has used. Use P for the unknown number. Okay, so if you'd like to pause and try this part on your own, you can do that and come back. Otherwise, you can follow along with me. Okay, we will start by writing down the total amount of gallons for this bar model. And so when we do that, we know that that is 41. So we will write 41 gallons here. In our bar model, we have made one area here that represents the 6 gallons of paint in a sprayer. So we can write 6 for the 6 gallons of paint used in the sprayer. Our goal is to find out how much paint is in each bucket. So we are looking to find the unknown part, which is P. Now let's take a look at Part C. Step 1. How can you use an equation to find the amount of paint in all the buckets? And it says, use a blank equation to find the amount of paint in all the buckets. Solve for P. If you would like to pause and try this part on your own, you may do so and come back. Otherwise, you can follow along with me. When I look at this bar model, I'm noticing here that what I'm really trying to find is P. And so I have this area of the sprayer that is 6, and I have the total, which is 41. So this whole section right here is not what I'm looking for. I should get this number removed from this number because I'm really only looking to find this number right here. So I should take this 6 and subtract it from the 41. So I'm going to use a subtraction equation to find the amount of paint in all the buckets. And then I'm going to now solve for P. Again, if you'd like to try this next part by yourself, you can do that. Push pause and come back. Otherwise, follow along with me. So the first part is asking for the total amount of paint, which is 41 gallons. Next is the amount of paint in the sprayer, which is 6. And that will give me P, the amount in all the buckets. And when I do the subtraction equation, I find that P is 35. So our answer is 35 gallons. Let's take a look at the next page, page 226, under Step It Out, Part D. What numbers do you know and what do the numbers represent? I am posting the information from page 225 on this paper so that we can take a look at everything all together. You might be thinking there sure are a lot of numbers, but what I want you to think about is that you are looking for how much paint is in each bucket. That's our main goal here. And so we have already found that in the buckets, there will be a total of 35 gallons. So that's one of our important numbers. But remember, our goal is again to find the paint in each bucket. And we know that there are 7 equal-sized buckets of paint. So 7 is going to be one of our important numbers as well. So we can write 7 as one of our important numbers and then explain why both of these are important. And we can explain our thinking by writing 35 gallons is the amount of paint in all the buckets, and 7 is the number of buckets. Now let's look at part E. Complete the bar model to show how many gallons of paint Mr. Cole has in each bucket. Use G for the unknown number. You can use your solution from step 1 in order to find how much paint is in each bucket for step 2. You can look back at your page 225 for this information. I have placed all this information on the side to help us take a look at it on one page together. So I have colored in this bar graph green because I want you to see that we're really just talking about this area right here. Remember, this has gone away when we subtracted 6 from 41, our total, and then now we have 35. So we know that all of P is going to be 35 gallons. That's the amount, of P. And now we're breaking that 35 into 7 sections because there are 7 buckets. But we don't know what that number is. So we're going to write a G for the unknown number on all the sections because these represent each bucket. And our job is to find the amount of gallons of paint in each bucket. Now let's take a look at part F, step 2. How can you use an equation to find the amount of paint in each bucket? Now use a blank equation to find the amount of paint in each bucket. Solve for G. And so we're wanting to find out what kind of equation should we use to solve this problem. So you may want to pause and think for a minute and come back. And I think you'll find that we should use a division problem because we're taking a total amount, 35, and we are breaking it into 7 parts for the 7 buckets to find an unknown number. So let's go ahead and fill all of the information in. We have paint in all the buckets, which is 35, and the number of buckets we have would be 7, and our unknown number is, we're going to call it G. And so now we need to solve for G. So if you want to pause and solve for G and come back, you can do so. And when you do, you will find that there are 5 gallons in each bucket because 35 divided into 7 parts makes 5. So our answer is 5 gallons. Let's take a look at part G. What operations can you use to check the reasonableness of your answers? So let's take a look at that last equation that we just did, the division equation. So how could we show someone that this is a correct statement? How could we explain that this is right? We've done a drawing, a bar model to explain that, but what operation could we use to show them? And if you're remembering, we know that the factor 7 and the factor of the unknown, when those are multiplied, they should always give us the dividend, the answer here. So one of our answers is, I can multiply 7 and 5 because we know G is 5 to find the total amount of paint in the buckets, which would be 35. Now let's take a look at our other equation, the one highlighted in pink here, 41 gallons of paint, take away 6 gallons of paint for the amount in the sprayer equals P, which was 35. So how could we use an operation to check the reasonableness of this answer? And what we can explain is that when I add 6 to 35, I will get 41 gallons. And that is the total amount of paint for the buckets and the sprayer. So that's an operation that shows the reasonableness of the answer. You can always go back and re-watch this video at any time and pause along the way as needed.